Our group therapy question this week comes from a writer who feels trapped and burned out. She writes, "Help me, Rhonda. I'm at a loss when it comes to my next steps. My current role and my own need to achieve have led me down the path of burnout. I am getting help in recovering. However, I'm concerned that the reality of the boundaries I'll set upon my return will lead to reprimand and eventually termination. I will try my best to document and self advocate that my boundaries aren't a reflection of my inability, but rather speak to unrealistic expectations. But any ideas on what else to do? Or is this a wasted investment of my time and energy? And should I simply look elsewhere for a job that doesn't have unrealistic expectations? Is that a real thing?" And as always, you responded with great advice. Our first piece of advice comes from many of our contributors this week. The consensus is that being afraid of reprimand or termination is putting unnecessary stress on yourself, and there is nothing wrong with accepting the fact that this position just may not be for you and to start looking for a new job. Stress and stress leave are not worth it. You are worth it, so take care of you. Joy Chartier from Ottawa, Ontario agreed as well and reminded you that you don't want a termination on your record. She says to remind yourself to set boundaries early in your new job. Michelle Frame from Calgary, Alberta asks if this is a great job and a great work environment, and are you willing to fight for it? If you've already experienced or witnessed negative feedback, read the writing on the wall. If you're afraid of something happening that you haven't seen happen, maybe your fear is getting in the way of the situation that just might change if you try. Michelle says it takes time to change the way you work, but this employer might be worth it for you. Elizabeth White Peters from Stratford, Connecticut advised you that 1, see a medical provider for treatment as prescribed. Number 2, obtain and understand your healthcare benefits and options. 3, these must align to have any job protection, especially if you work in at will. Number 4, depending on the length of the service and company culture, setting boundaries will require tact and time. 5, if you want to make this work, then determine your plan and recognize that small steps are wins. If you don't want to or don't have the time for this, it might be too late to resolve it, but she does wish you the best of luck. Judith Kane from Ottawa, Ontario suggests that you talk to your employer about your ability to manage the changes that you've set. Having the conversation is essential. Don't wait to see what happens and instead put it on the table and talk about it early. Unless they agree to the change in the parameters of the job to accommodate you, you will likely find yourself going through burnout again. Mary Ellen Hind is a coach from Toronto, Ontario, who specializes in burnout and leadership. And she encourages you whether to reflect on whether your values align with the values of your organization. Values disalignment is a major contributor to burnout, regardless of those boundaries, right? And from Pacific, Missouri, Shelley Wassell is reminding you that perhaps your own fear is the fear of the unknown. You may walk in, set your boundaries, and everything will be okay. Or maybe your concerns will be the reality. You don't know until you get there. The best thing that you can do is prepare for either scenario. Setting boundaries does not make you bad or a difficult person. When the quiet ones finally speak up for themselves, the bullies are often shocked. It may be a bumpy road at first, but that won't be your fault. It will be the fault of the person who has pushed you around prior to your healing. You are human and your well-being is important. We only get one life, and it's not worth it to be miserable every day because we need a paycheck. There are other jobs out there, and jobs do exist where respect is given. Toss a few resumes out there while you're navigating these waters. Shelley says that she's a plan B person. It's much easier and a lot less pressure to look for a job when you currently are working. Who knows? You might get an offer from another company that make your current employer sit up and listen because they're afraid of losing such a great team member. And she says, congratulations on putting yourself and your needs first. And finally, Sheila Brown from Victoria, BC reminds you to document, and then document any meetings that you have and any agreements that you come to. But just in case things go sideways, be sure to have all your documentation ready. The consensus is that this will not be easy. Make sure you prioritize yourself and your health first, and your job second. And most importantly, good luck.